go at the Premier League, it was, this process for me doesn't appear to have been as clear as they believe or telling people it was. In fact, in bits it's really opaque, isn't it? Now, how can Everton have the highest ever points deduction when there be transgressions that are far worse than what Everton have admitted to, and worked with the Premier League throughout that period to try to ensure that this eventuality didn't happen? So there were things that I just didn't think were right. Treated as fodder, it's not like any other commodity football, is it? If you fall out with your football club, it's different than falling out with, I don't know, going to the Asda and then saying, well, you know what, I'll go to you're never going to go to a different football club, so they know they've got us, they've got all of us, haven't they? It's a closed shop in that way. So I think that what we need to do is to get other fans, not just Evertonians, to support what's happening. Now, we're told that potentially tomorrow some more charges might come out, and let's see what happens to those and to those football clubs. But I think it's better if other people shout about the injustice that's happening to your football club. And that's one of the reasons that I decided to come along today, not just to see all of you, and I should be in church. So thanks for supporting the football club. Thanks for showing your determination and your fight. And I think this is something that you, along with other people, can win. Thanks a lot.
You're here, and we appreciate how we should be focusing on this fixture being played for the second to last time on the grand old stage of Goodison Park. Goodison now should be a kind of place where every match day is like a celebration, isn't it, of everything it means to us and what it's meant to English football. Instead, it's shrouded in protest because of the failure of the governing bodies of the game to regulate it fairly. It's as simple as that. And and the way I look at it is, if I look across the game, on and off the pitch, decision-making seems shot to pieces to me, completely shot to pieces. We're spending more time following disciplinary panels and legal processes, aren't we? That's where the things are happening that have a decisive impact on the game, and that's just wrong, isn't it? We're kind of celebrating the signing of KCs, King's Councils, rather than players in the January transfer window. I think Sky Sports are going to have cameras on Chancery Lane, aren't they? Who's going to get this KC to fight their case? And because that's what's going to happen when Steve is right in saying more charges possibly coming tomorrow. Everyone's then going to be kind of getting lawyers, aren't they? And everyone's sort of fighting battles off the pitch. There's I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. If we are to get another complaint from the Premier League and the process kind of runs through to the end of this season, isn't there a risk of double jeopardy there? i.e. you get punished twice in the same season for effectively the same thing, because it's, the finances of the club are stretched, aren't they, for a whole host of reasons. Can we really be punished twice in one season for the same thing? How could it be right that the season might end, as we've been told now, and the appeals will still be going on? It's like with VAR, isn't it? When a goal, you can't celebrate a goal because you don't know what they're going to do to change it. It's going to be like that now with the season. It will finish, but no one will know who's going up, who's staying up, who's going down, because the appeals will only be concluded later in May. I mean, what's happening to the game here? It just seems to me that all of this is ruining the game, and those in positions of responsibility have abdicated their responsibility to the supporters of this game, and particularly to the supporters of this football club. It is great that Steve's here. I think our campaign is beginning to be understood by more than just Evertonians. I think, we certainly saw that at Wolves, didn't we? There was solidarity there from Wolves with regard to the things the Everton end were doing that day. I think that will only grow tomorrow. But I want to point to a significant development this morning with regard to some of the most senior figures in the country, actually, joining the call that I've made for a complete review of the way they've handled this case. So Dame Sue Owen, former permanent secretary at the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. Sir Brendan Barber, former head of the TUC, but also chair of ACAS. And Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England. Today, they have written in support of the letters that I sent to them, and effectively making the same argument. So I think we can put up the whole letter, I think, Dave, can't we, at some point today? But if I could just read one bit of it to you. We think a more measured transition period would have been appropriate, and wonder if that still might be possible. We urge the Premier League to reconsider its approach to ensure actions are fully explained, predictable, proportionate, fair, and timely for all. To have three figures of that stature coming out and making a public appeal in that way should tell the Premier League, should tell the whole of football, indeed everybody, that something is seriously wrong with the way this has been done. And on the back of that letter, I think today, and it's great that you're here, it's sad that we are having to be here, as I say, when we should be thinking about Goodison and celebrating everything that it's been about, but we are here. And what I want to say to you is we've got to now take this campaign to the next level. As Steve said, it is about, and Dave said, it's about football more broadly, isn't it? How it's being governed and in whose interests it's being governed. That's what we've got to do. We've got to take this fight to Parliament, because the Football Governance Bill lands in Parliament next month. And I've been told that currently the government's thinking is that they will leave the regulation of the profit and sustainability rules with the Premier League. They've watered it down already. That's what I've been told. I do not believe that we can accept that, and I think we need to mount a parliamentary campaign to get a full, powerful, independent statutory regulator for football, because I don't believe in what I've learned over the last few months, that the Premier League is fit for purpose as a regulator. I don't believe it is fit for purpose as a regulator. Why? Well, point one, and this is made in the letter that that Dame Sue, Sir Brendan and Mark Carney have sent today. Good regulation, first and foremost, must be based on the principle of transparency. If you don't know the rules and the penalties, how can there be fair regulation? How can it be seen to be fair if no one knows what those rules are? I asked them in my second letter to publish the formula that they sent to the Independent Commission. I said to them they should publish the minutes of the board meeting that agreed that formula in August 2023. I had no answer on both of those points. How can that possibly be right? What is this formula? What status does it have? Is it going to be applied should be done. And it needs to be challenged. There has to be transparency. That was the ruling of the European Court of Justice on the European Super League just before Christmas. It repeatedly said that regulation and sanctions regimes must be based on the principle of full transparency. Well, the Premier League has comprehensively failed us and failed football in that regard. Operation of its sanctions linked to the PSR. But then you kind of like look more broadly and say, well, aren't there also some conflicts of interest here? You will know that the day I sent my first letter, it was the United game, I did an interview on the pitch at Goodison for Sky Sports News. Now, that interview was never broadcast. And I've never had it in my political career where you give an interview like that. I'm sure Steve has never had that, where you give an interview on a topical issue, an important issue to lots of people, and it never appears. It was put to me that pressure was applied on them by the Premier League. Now, I think they've denied it, but the allegation was made, and no one's come to me and said why that interview wasn't aired. So I don't know whether that's the case or not, but what I do know is, how can a regulator that sells broadcasting rights to the media industry, how can that be a kind of a healthy situation when they have a different relationship with the media as a regulator and as somebody who's selling broadcasting rights? Is that right, that they should have that conflict of interest? I think there's a broader conflict of interest as well, though, because obviously, if you look at how the Premier League makes its money, it makes its money often out of clubs at the top of the game. It has a vested interest in those clubs continuing to be successful. I'm not necessarily making an allegation here, but I am saying, is there not a risk of a perceived conflict of interest there in terms of the way regulation is done? Is it fair? Is it even-handed? And these perceived conflicts of interest are there in the system that we've currently got. We do not have independence and a clear kind of perception of independence in terms of the way these things are being done. And I think that is wrong. And it's, again, a reason why I don't think the Premier League is fit for purpose as a regulator. The final point I'll make relates to the profit and sustainability rules. And it kind of builds on the last point that I made. When these rules were introduced, it was after a period of big change in football, change in ownership, and some clubs obviously seeing huge amounts of funding coming in. The effect of the rules is it kind of traps football in that moment in time, that straitjacket. Those who have had that influx of funding have then got a much better situation than those who haven't. And so it creates a sort of a kind of ceiling on people's ambitions. It traps clubs in a certain financial. The big irony here, they've actually proven to everybody that they're not fit to regulate because the way they've overreacted, the way that they've done this, and I think that actually is what's been happening here. That's what they've done. They kind of took action and went to the tougher end of what they were going to do to try and stop a regulator. That regulator is coming. It's incumbent on all of us, in my view, as we go forward from here, to protect the game we all care about. And this is why the call goes out to supporters of other clubs. We cannot accept the situation that we've found ourselves in. Nobody should accept it. We need a full, independent, statutory regulator for football that will regulate in complete interests of fairness and in promoting fair competition in English football. And we shouldn't settle for anything less. We take our campaign forward from here today. The worst thing we could do is go quiet. That's what they wanted us to do, isn't it? They wanted us just to kind of accept it and go quiet. Well, they picked on the wrong club. They picked on the wrong fan base. We're not going to do that. This campaign is only getting stronger. It's only getting louder. We will accept, won't we, if there's something wrong been done, as the rules have been breached in some way. We are not saying that we will not accept a fair penalty in respect of that. But what we will never accept is our club, this grand old club of ours, a founder member of the English Football League, a founder member of the Premier League, basically being sacrificed by the powers that be in the way that they want to do. It is quite frankly disgraceful that they are treating one of the oldest clubs in English football in this way. But for us, there go everybody else. And that's why this fight, Everton's fight, is everybody's fight. It's a fight we need to win for the game we care about so much. Thank you very much indeed for listening, everyone.